All right.
How's my hair?
Okay. Welcome back for another episode of the Rebel Road Show. I'm your host, Pete Matkiwsky, and today our guest is Holly Migliachio, the co-founder of Rook Coffee. What started as a small 300 square foot shop has become a beloved brand with almost a dozen locations and a cult following, which I probably will admit I too am a proud member of. Holly, welcome to the Rebel Road Show.
Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here.
Joining us is another cult member. We got Brian Bott, who sneaks away from Aspire Fitness to get Rook quite often. So I had to bring Brian here since we both were a mutual friend.
Heck yeah.
I'm a 2 or 3 a day guy.
2 or 3 Rooks a day.
Back when I was coaching a lot, easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
2 or 3.
On the way, during the
Hot
break, and then before you started again. I was old school. I was from the beginning. So I was a Hondo. I was like a Hondo with milk and one raw.
Okay.
But now I mix it up. So
The Honduras is really popular.
yeah, that was my go-to. And that was the roaster's pick not too long ago, right?
That's right.
Yeah, see?
Came
I'm
back.
educated. Pete.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
Oh, he's really in it.
There's nothing I haven't liked, so I mix it up. But I'm usually like a medium to mild roast.
Well, listen, you're bartending today. I'm sure there's a little Rook influence here. What are we drinking?
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of an old fashioned. So this is a cold fashioned. So usually I would use New Orleans cold brew, but I went with the peanut butter mocha. So this has a little bit different flavor. And then it's just a quick little ounce of Mr. Black here, and then a little bourbon. So
Wow. Well, I'm excited.
Sounds
Cheers.
amazing.
good. Hopefully you guys
Welcome.
enjoy it as much as I do. Cheers.
Thank you.
Caffeinated and a little tipsy. I like it.
Hopefully it's pretty good.
Wow.
Good, right?
Wow.
That's real good.
That's real good.
That's trouble right there.
I am glad
Good.
that I forewent my second cup of
Well,
coffee.
I'll be here for
this.
the next couple hours. So there we go.
Let's go.
So, Holly, did you ever intend to start a cult?
Well, I'm going to say out of the gates, no. But as it got started, yes, I wanted to create a culture. And the word cult comes from culture, and a community culture around something that I loved and that so many people love. And as it started to become what you would consider a cult, part of culture, we definitely just leaned in and kept going.
I mean, people proudly put the crow on their car. So
which
that's
is
where it
crazy.
takes it to that level.
Which is crazy.
But it is that good. And I think the fact that you're so like community driven and like, if you're from here, you feel like a kinship to it, right? There's a sense of pride with that it's just for us.
Yeah.
You know, it's as you've grown and you've expanded, you know, it's gone to more than just the shore, but it is something that is such a staple here, and it is amazing coffee.
Well, that's what we wanted, right? When we built it, when we designed it, we really wanted to bring something to this community that didn't already exist. You had your typical coffee businesses and cafes, but there was nothing with the quality and simplicity and experience we like to give that existed. So we kind of saw this hole that most people didn't see, this niche, and we went for it.
But even like Starbucks, right? Starbucks took coffee from being just like a utility, right? That people just like, oh, let me get this to go.
Functional,
Functional,
caffeine
right?
hit.
And then they made it artisanal. But then as they got public, it's turned into like, I don't even, is it coffee anymore? Probably.
It's still coffee, and they still source. But to get that much coffee at that level for that many, thousands and thousands of stores, probably really difficult for them to keep it consistent, right? So something that we learned and realized early on is that we wanted to have single origin coffees. So single origin meaning it just comes directly from that country of origins. We were just talking about Honduras or Guatemala or Bali or Sumatra. And at Starbucks, they always had their blends. That was their, proprietary Pike's Place and house blends, et cetera. And it's easier to sort of switch coffees in and out and still get that same or similar profile, right? Like it's not like it's like wine. It's Pike's Place can't possibly be exactly the same every single year after year after year after year. So they have to create a blend of coffees. Maybe some are dark, some are light, some are medium. They're from different regions that give them different, characteristics, notes, and they can kind of keep their blend going. And that's what a lot of coffee businesses were doing when we started. And what we recognized was that if you get really, really good, high-end, high-quality, single-origin coffees, and try to educate the consumer that this year's Guatemala is not the same as next year's. We're going to roast it as close as possible. But as we shift to that new batch, you might taste some differences. Try to educate. Not everybody, some people are like, I don't care. Just give me the good cup of coffee. And others are like, did you change something? It's like, it's very slight. It's just a new batch.
I mean, I love the simplicity of it and that you really make it about the coffee. Whereas I feel like now it's all this like whipped cream concoctions. Brian, what's the fitness level of things that are served at Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts with all this sugar?
Easily 700-800 calories.
Yeah, probably not good.
Yeah.
But with you, it's all about like, I like black coffee. I like it strong. I want to feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really enjoy when I get a Rook coffee. Why did you go that simplistic route? And was that like the big game changer for you?
Well, yeah, simplistic was really important to us. As we were researching, building a business and building this type of business, we were really kind of adamant about staying focused on what we do. Just really, really great coffee. And we chose not to go the espresso route, for example. I love espresso, but the machines were expensive. We were funding this thing ourselves. And we thought that the way that we created this pour-over method would serve something that even if you loved espresso, you could still get a great cup of coffee at Rook and it would be, one of the most amazing cups you've ever had. You didn't need the espresso. The espresso has a time and place as well. I still go to places to get espresso, right? I don't always just want a cup of coffee. But we wanted to simplify things. And we thought the single origins being simplified, our cold drinks being, for the most part, simplified as we've gone on. People want flavors, but, we've never put, whipped cream or caramel on top or added any sugars or pumps of things just to make it taste better.
Right.
Or what people want better. If you want whipped cream, Starbucks is definitely the place for you. Or, and listen, they get a lot of young people. I have 2 young girls. They want me to take them to Starbucks all the time. But I'm like, so you just want a milkshake, right? And that's what they're ordering.
Go to Five Guys.
Yeah. Some of those drinks, most of those that target the younger generation don't really even have coffee in them. Yeah,
like the Charlie D'Amelio Dunkin' Donuts rainbow.
It's just a fruity, beverage.
Brian, this peanut butter
This is amazing.
So you have I saw you did some April Fool's pranks. What was the April Fool's prank they did where I was like, they can't be doing this? It was something, it made me so sick when I saw it. I said, what are they doing? But then I was like, oh, it's April 1st.
The original one, I think, was bacon. We had so many ideas. Then maybe it was pork roll, egg and cheese or pork roll, it was pork roll style. Yeah, that's it. It was pork roll style.
I probably would have tried it. I'm not.
And people fall for it in the first few minutes of the day, or, you see the comments like, what? And then, oh, you didn't get me. And, then it all kind of unfolds. But we like to have fun with our community too.
You had a job at Yahoo. How did this come about? Why coffee and why that leap? And what were you doing?
So I studied elementary ed. That's what I went to school for, University of Delaware. My parents were both in education and I, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And they had a nice life. They were very happy. And they kind of pushed me in that direction because that's what they knew, right? That's what parents do. And me being unsure, I said, all right, I'll go in that direction. Came out of college and decided I do not want to be a teacher. In fact, I started to go on interviews and I even got offers. And I was like, oh, and it was a tough time to get jobs in 2000. And I basically was just against it at that point. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And my older sister had an apartment in New York City. Very, very small apartment, 450 square feet. No, excuse me, 150 square feet. It was 10 by 12.
Little studio,
$450 a month.
Wow.
And which even back in 2000 was very, 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 very cheap. So she wanted to go get her master's in Italy and study fashion, but she didn't want to lose the apartment. So she's like, why don't you move to New York City? You could use my apartment and get a job in anything, And I'm like, anything. She's like, you could be a server. Just go to New York. So I took the apartment. I told everyone I knew that summer, I'm moving to New York. I need a job. I'm moving to New York. I need a job. I didn't have a job. Went to a party, with friends and saying this line. I'm moving to New York. I need a job. She said, I work for this company, hotjobs.com. We're hiring. Give me your resume. I mean, within 2 days, somebody had reached out. I had an interview. And I got that job, hotjobs.com.
Hotjobs.com.
And, email holly@hotjobs.com. It was a lot of telemarketing. It was sales. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just did it and grew at that company. And we were purchased by Yahoo in 2002. Went through an acquisition, elementary ed, no business, no marketing, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, just head down, just keep working. I don't know. We're getting acquired. Am I getting fired? Are we getting severed? Like we had no idea, but we just kept working. And it was wonderful. I mean, then all of a sudden I'm in this big company. I went from this little startup to I'm now working for Yahoo. Yahoo was big. Yeah. And I worked in New York City for a while. They shipped me out to San Francisco for a couple of years. I fell into sales training and operations. And then I was kind of being used as, because I had the sales experience, now I have sales training experience. And, they would launch new systems like a new CRM. And they're like, oh, well, you've been in sales and training. Like you're on our user experience team. We need you in the back. So I started to learn so many other things about business. And from there, I was recruited into a company called The Ladders. And it was also a couple of the founders of Hot Jobs,
That was like C-suite.
Yeah. So
Monster.com,
100
right?
plus.
I remember that.
Job, 100K plus jobs.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 10 months. They overlapped jobs. I was sales managing, and then I was managing operations for it was true startup mode. And
so you're probably doing well in those positions. It seems you're dominating in that world a little bit. What made you be like, you know what, this isn't it?
If you're an entrepreneur, it's a statement to say I'm an entrepreneur. Anybody can say I'm an entrepreneur, but there's this entrepreneurial itch that I had. Now looking back, that's what I had. And it was like, I can do more than this. I know I can do more than this. Everything that I did, if I failed at something, I came out wildly stronger. I had that itch. And it was weighing on me. And The Ladders was a great company, but it was similar to my early Hot Jobs days. Like, they probably wanted to get acquired. And it was like I was starting over again almost.
Right.
And I was like, this is what I want to do. And so I quit. I quit the job in the middle of the summer.
With no plan?
No plan.
Were you making good money?
I was making good money. I was making six figures. I was 29 at the time. Which was a lot back then, in New York City. And I needed a break to decide what I wanted to do. So I quit on in the middle of the week, 2:00 in the afternoon. It was not planned. Usually you wait till 5:00 on a Friday and you're like, all right, I'm out of here. Not planned, which is wild looking back. I would kill my kid. I'm like, oh my God.
What did your parents say when you hit them with that news? Hey, by the way, that great job that you've been telling people I had, I just left.
They were a little panicked. I had a home at the time. I had a mortgage. It was so dumb. I think like it was crazy. It was. But crazy.
What did that time allow you to do?
So my now wife and I, she was working in the city and knew she was going to lose her job, right? She was at a hedge fund that was owned by Citi and they were going to unwind the hedge fund, but said, stay and you're going to get this great package. So she stayed knowing she was about to lose the job, in a couple months. And I had quit and I said, well, when you're done, when this ends, I want to travel. I want to go somewhere. I want to just something I've never done is travel for an extended period of time. So we went to Southeast Asia for 3 months. So we left in December and we came back in March, 2008 into 2009. And that trip was kind of, most people don't get to do something like that. We were 30 at the time. And it just opened my whole world into the possibilities of anything, We went from Thailand to Laos to Vietnam, back to Thailand at the end of the trip. And it was just unbelievable. Again, also, if my kid does that, I'm going to really, I look back, and I was 30, but it was a wild trip. And so we're coming back, and my friend from childhood, Sean, who's now my business partner, Shannon and I also grew up with him. Shannon's my wife. And he was in San Francisco where we had lived for a couple of years. And I said, well, we're coming back over from Bangkok. we have 2 days we want to stay in San Francisco before we go home to New Jersey and figure out what we're going to do. By the way, like we both had
And Sean was in San Francisco.
Sean was in San Francisco.
Okay.
So he had he had worked for JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley. Those were his 2, big companies that he had worked for. And he had tried to quit after his bonus, right? So it's like January and he was a risk analyst. And at the time, this is 2008, they were like, we need risk analysts.
Right.
That's who we
Yeah.
need, and so they let him work from home, from the couch in San Francisco. He was like, I'm going to San Francisco. And, which was nowadays, I work from home. That's normal. Back then it wasn't normal. He went from a suit in New York City to, they begged him to stay. So he stayed on. And so we drop in, that was January. We drop in March. And he had this proposition. I have this proposition. I was like, a proposition? We emailed, from Bangkok and he had been sitting in coffee shops. He actually was doing pre-med on the side at Berkeley. He was like, maybe I'll go.
He's a risk analyst doing pre-med at coffee
shops. He didn't know what, yeah, exactly. He grew a little beard. If you see him now, you're like, that guy had a little beard. No. And he was sitting in these coffee shops and of course, analyzing and crunching numbers and like, wait, this many people just came through and they're not sitting down. And, so he proposed the coffee business and with me. And I'm like, why with me? Like why
you?
Yeah. I had what he didn't have and he had what I didn't have. Right. So our balance is tremendous.
The marketing side of things.
The marketing and people side.
Yeah.
Growing a team, managing a team. But he knew the numbers. He was very chemistry minded. And he would
He was your quant.
That's my quant.
Your what?
My quantitative, my math specialist. Look at him.
Pretty much, yeah. Exactly. Still is. And so he proposed this business. And I was also, right, fresh off the beach from, Thailand, like, sure, I'll try it, like it was another risk. So it's like risk after risk after risk. But that was in March and we traveled, we did the whole Northwest from San Francisco. I went home after the 2 days in March, back to have a chat in April, home, and then back again in May. And we did 2 weeks on the road, all the way up to Vancouver. Together. We rented a car, we went up to Vancouver and back. So we hit, Portland and Seattle. We did the whole coast, but we visited, I think it was more than 100 coffee shops. I looked through my notes recently and it's like every day we were doing like 7 or 8 coffee shops, businesses, roasteries, and just researching, taking notes. We had our laptops and saw what we would want to do, pulled some things, and then saw what we would not want to do in a business.
And why the Northwest? Just because at that time it's like, hey, Starbucks is from there. It's the Mecca. It's having its little grunge moment.
Yeah. So we had been in San Francisco and we knew there was like this Northwest coffee scene was so different than the rest of the country. I mean, so different. Now we've all sort of adopted what they were doing, right? But
were you like picking the owner's brains, or you just were observing?
We were mostly observing, but then if somebody would give us time, we would talk to them and ask them. But mostly undercover, right? We'd walk into a beautiful cafe. It would have tons of seating and people were sitting on their laptops and, maybe that's cafe number 5 for the day. We'd split a coffee, right? And so it was $3, $4. And then we'd sit there for an hour or two. I'm like, we just rented office space for 2 hours,
right?
And we split it for $3,
right?
And we looked around and we're like, that's what everybody else is doing, and that was a major decision for us, which was we're gonna have no sit down.
No Wi-Fi, no, yeah.
No Wi-Fi, no open mic night. We're going to close early. We didn't want to be a cafe, and we weren't going to serve a lot of food at the time, if any. It was like, oh, we need something, but we didn't want to be a food establishment. But we wouldn't have known that. Unless
you did that trip. That's pretty wild that you did that.
Yeah.
And so obviously you have Jersey Shore roots. Why did you decide to go? It was Oakhurst was the first location, 300 square feet.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that? And what was that like initial investment to do that?
So, the word Rook comes from inside Brooklyn. right? So we actually thought we wanted to do this business in Brooklyn. Nothing really had existed when he brought the idea to me in New York City at all. Something called Gorilla Coffee, and they were roasting. They were a little ahead of their time. It was in Park Slope. And then Stumptown came in and they partnered. I forget the name of the shop. I think it might even still be there, but Stumptown was from the West Coast, from Portland.
Yeah.
That was a big move. And we were like, oh gosh, and then we heard rumblings of, Counterculture is going to come, and some of these other companies that were big juggernauts in that world out on the West Coast. So we started to panic a little bit. We're like, we're going to be in Brooklyn and all the big guys are going to come.
Yeah. Like 2008 Brooklyn, that's the height of girls. Like that's like a whole movement is happening in Brooklyn at that time.
It was transforming.
Yeah.
So we had come up with this name Rook inside Brooklyn, and we shifted our whole idea in August of 2009. So again, March, he proposed the idea. Now it's August. We're working on this whole business plan. Now it's August and we're shifting it. We're like, all right, let's do it back home. You know what? Home's pretty cool. My parents are actually fun to hang out with, and he's a surfer. So he was like, I'm surfing a lot. Like, what if we did this here? Are they ready for this? And they were. Monmouth County, New Jersey was ready. And so we shifted from this Brooklyn idea to, okay, we have to find a location. What would be the absolute best location we could find for the minimal amount of money we have? So we were trying to find something that had high traffic, but was in, a neighborhood.
Right.
And he stated it. He was like, over by the Hot Bagel Bakery and Brennan's in Oakhurst, something right there would be great. There's a 7-Eleven in the middle of the town. It's a unique location. And
the quant crunching the numbers.
Crunching the numbers, right? A lot of traffic, but people can still walk there. And so Shannon, my wife, and I were coming home from dinner one night, and we see this little for rent sign, like handwritten, at the edge of the parking lot that we have now. I took a picture, and I was like, what about this? And so we went to look at it. I think it was $750 a month.
Really?
Little tiny hut in the back of, a salon parking lot. Like setback. And we were like, this is perfect. 300 square feet. And we're going to roast in here too. So.
Now, what did you know about that? Where's the education coming from? Like, now we got to find beans and.
Well, originally on that trip, we were going to find a roaster to roast the coffee and then purchase from them. It'd just be a great coffee shop. But then you realize, as cheap as that sounds, like, we won't do that whole part of the business. It actually makes sense to own more parts of,
right.
The line. So Sean taught himself how to roast. We got this little roaster. It was our first big investment. I think we each chipped in $430 and we bought this roaster. And I lived in Highlands right here, and I had a back porch. We opened all the windows, and he roasted. I still have the plastic tables that we had. He roasted our first batch on my back porch in Highlands.
Was it as good as it is now, or it was terrible?
It was pretty good, actually. Believe it or not. He had all of these charts, and he was where the heat goes up at certain times, and he had that mind. And then we learned how to taste coffees properly to be able to discern if there were any issues with them, or if they were good or bad. And that's August. We found the space in October, and we opened in January 2010.
2010. Brian, how early were you a Rook connoisseur here?
Well, we both opened in Colts Neck at around the same time, around 2015, right? That was when Colts Neck.
You tell me.
Yeah, so
that was your first Rook, was Colts Neck?
I had Rook before that. When we were at East Point, when we were there, the nearest one was Long Branch. So we'd like rock, paper, scissors, like, all right, who's taking the ride?
Long Branch, well, we opened the first Little Oakhurst, we call it, the original store, 2010. 2011, we opened Long Branch. 2012, we opened Little Silver, a handful in 2012. We did about 6 in 18 months, from 12 to 13, 14 in that range. I don't remember the order. Yeah. I should remember the order, but it was chaos. I mean,
so you open up in 2010. How quickly do you start to make profits and it starts to catch fire. And what do you attribute to that? Just the area and people being curious and liking the product, or what kind of marketing magic did you do to make that happen?
No marketing background. So any magic was just stroke of luck. I think that there's this piece that maybe gets underlooked, which is, you can open up a business and you can have a great product, but if someone comes in and doesn't have a good experience, they might not want to come back again. You can open up and have a great experience and they love you, but the product is no good. You need to synergize those two things.
Yeah.
And, we added in simplicity, right? So it was like quality of the product, incredible experience when you come in and when you drink it, and keep it really simple and focused
And
the whole
fast in
time.
and out.
And fast and efficient. So there was like a combo, and then throw in that Sean and I grew up here, both of us. So our first batch of customers were family and friends, and and our still to this day we don't do a lot of marketing, like paid advertising. It's all word of mouth, and it always has been. People stop me and be like, "How do I get customers?" And I'm like, one by one by one by one. Like, that's it. And you hope that they go get one by one for you.
Right.
So the marketing magic was taking those three components, really staying, true to them. Quality, simplicity, experience. Still to this day, we stay true to them. And, throw in personality, make sure the people you're hiring are kind people that, have the same values. And then, little strokes of luck here and there. I always attribute luck to some of it for sure.
And then so skin in the game, well, we're talking like 10 grand to start?
I think it was 15 each.
15 each.
Yeah.
And that got you
Our roaster.
the beans,
Yep, the first batch of beans.
the branding.
The branding was me.
Well, you did.
Yeah. I drew it. Yep. I drew the logo. And I didn't know what I didn't know, but I did know that I wanted to, have a logo that didn't say anything except for, our image, our bird. And I wanted to be patient, and Sean didn't understand that at first. He was like, "You got to put the website on there. You got to put our name." And I was like, "No, just the bird on a shirt, on a sticker, on mugs." And,
When I first moved down here, I would see that damn bird on people's cars.
And what did you think?
What is this bird?
Correct. That is exactly what I wanted.
And then when I drove by and saw the bird, I was like, that's the damn bird.
The aha moment does so much more.
And then you go in.
Yeah.
Then you're hooked.
Then you're
That's how
hooked.
they get you.
What is that?
Brian, what did you think when you saw the bird?
Kind of along the same lines, but to share another story about simplicity, the first time I went to Rook, I tried to order a bagel toasted with cream cheese because I saw the flats. And I was like, I was all excited. I was like, can I have that toasted with cream cheese? And she was like, oh, no, we don't do that. And at first I was like, well, that's weird. And then it just...
You have bagels and
I was
what?
like, yeah, coffee's good. So I just kept coming back. But yeah, I mean, it's simple, it works, it's recognizable, I was already here when it was starting. So when I first, there were a lot of people just asking, but it was everywhere. And now I see it like, I'll send her a message. Like if I'm in Nashville or something, you'll see one. And I'm like,
you see the bird in Nashville?
I get
people
photos
put them up
from
on all over the place.
all
I see them.
over. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a cult.
It's a cult.
But it's pride.
It's culture.
It's culture, yes.
It's culture.
And we're a very prideful culture here.
We are.
Yeah. So you were profitable right away.
Yes. I mean,
it's low overhead.
We had to. So some of the things that we have our machine. It's low overhead. We don't have an espresso machine. We have little refrigerators. We're doing pour over, making our own cold brew in the back, which is another beast of a story. But we didn't have a lot of needs. But by about May, we started to have bigger crowds. And Sean and I were the only two employees. And even the business plan said in 18 months, you'll hire someone, something like that. But it's May and we would take off every other Sunday. So we'd work every day and then each other would take off every other Sunday.
So you were the two employees.
We were it, the two employees.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's
so
making
very
the
low
coffee,
overhead.
you're in front.
He's roasting right behind me and I'm serving customers.
Wow.
Which was funny at the time. people would want to talk to him and, what are you making? And he, they'd be like, why isn't he answering me? I'm like, he cannot he's got to roast the coffee for you. It was really hard. So I had
He's doing his calculations.
Yeah. But it was so close to the front counter, this roaster, this machine.
300 square feet.
Yeah. I mean, it was wild. So the crowd started to come and we ran out of hot water. The first time Sean was alone and the machine ran out of hot water, and he said that the customers actually started clapping. They were like so excited. Like it was like a moment, like you did it. Like, huge pain point. And then they waited the 15 minutes or whatever and the water heated up again. But got another hot water machine. Both ran out of hot water,
Because that's how many cups you were selling.
So now we were serving. Yeah, it was way more than our projections had told us we would ever sell, something like that out of that machine. We'll never, and there it was. So then we're all right, we need to get a bigger machine. Now it's like, okay, this parking lot is not sustainable. And that was where it was like, okay, we need employees. Because then you need to think, right? Because strategic thinking, you cannot be sitting behind a counter serving coffee and planning a business at the same time. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Getting
one day off for yourself.
Yeah. And
every 2 weeks, is that what it was? Or every Sunday?
Yeah, every other Sunday we would take off. So we rotate at that for the beginning. And then we hired our first employee in June. And then by the end of that summer, we had 11 employees, rotating in and out. And we were able to start planning, okay, what should we do now? And we were still there every single day, still serving coffee, but we at least had staff. And that's when we decided to open a second location. And that was Long Branch.
Do you still have that little 300 square foot?
Sure do.
It's a shrine.
Still grows, to be honest. It's crazy. How is this place growing? This is crazy.
And then you opened Long Branch. So this is at the 7th month mark?
Well, that was when we started planning.
Okay.
So we opened Long Branch the next summer. So it was about 18 months from the first one.
What's it like operating 2 shops? I know, Brian, you have 2 gyms. I know that during your podcast, you talked about how Holly told you if you can do 2, you can do 10.
I'm still at 2, so we're working on 10.
Still at 2.
2 is the hardest because you think you know what changes you want, right? And then you make them and you're like, oh, the 3, you're like, I got this, like 3, all right.
How long were you at 2 before you're like, let's do more?
We started looking for 3 in the process of 2. So we opened, and then it was about another year.
How are you roasting enough coffee for 2?
So we were
still
roasting.
Sean, or you hired people to roast?
We hired people to roast. First, it was my 16-year-old cousin.
Nice.
Okay, was that legal? I don't know, but he was good.
I'm sure.
He would come after football practice, and start roasting coffee. Then his brother roasted. And then we hired one of our baristas started roasting. So, and then we went and got another facility for roasting. So in Ocean Township over by Wegmans, we got a warehouse space. We put a roaster in there. And then we had also had an office at that time. And that was in and around right after we opened Long Branch. We knew, okay, if we're going to grow stores, we need a larger roaster. And then that grew into a roastery, which at one point we had open to the public for a couple of years, and they could come in and see the roaster and have a cup of coffee and hang out. Did you ever get to that location?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was around the time when you were still doing like the bib pickups and stuff were there.
Oh, no, but it was before that. This was our original roastery in Ocean
no, I didn't
Township.
make it that one.
Yeah.
No.
So then we grew out of that and eventually, bought a building in downtown Long Branch.
How many cups of coffee were you selling a day in that 300 square foot?
I can't remember. I mean, I have actually, I always have a Moleskine book. And like at the beginning, I wrote everything, like every single thing that happened and this customer and their name. And the first day, I think we had 7 customers, including my mom and my grandpa. And
Count it.
Yeah. The second day was like, 9 and then 14 and, kind of rose up. But a typical coffee shop that is, quote unquote successful should do about 200 cups a day. And once we blew through that, we were like, all right, we need, there's something here.
Was that from the Northwest excursion, the sabbatical that you both took?
I think it was, yeah. That
Your quant was like, we got to get 200.
And he would forecast, and like, all right, if we had 200 cups, and this, and and then they bought some food, and then okay, we're selling some T-shirts, and do the math.
So you blew through that, and we're like, we need more.
Then it was this period of time. Like I said, it was about 6 shops in an 18-month period.
Wow.
They didn't all open, but we had leases for a couple, and that, I was like, all right, now this is growth. This is real growth. And Sean used to talk about it like a ship. And he uses his analogies a lot. He's like, we're like a ship, and we're sailing, and, we're getting speed. But at any moment, you could get some winds, I'll never forget. I was like, okay, Sean. So it was in 2017 where we were like, okay, let's just take a break here. Let's take a breather. Let's strengthen this business. Let's make sure all of our operations are really where we want them to be if we want to grow further. And, once you start to open like that, you're put focus into a new store or two, and the new manager over there, and then you forget about the original, and they're good. We'll check on them later, and they might not be good. They might have a bad manager. Somebody could be stealing. Somebody could be, it's people. This is a people business, right? I serve people, customers, but then I also, as a CEO, serve my employees. They're my customers. So I have to make sure I'm honing those relationships and making sure that everything at every level is very strong. So that's what we did. We stopped in about 2017. We still had a lease signed, maybe 2, but we were like, let's make this thing strong. And the last then we came back and opened a couple more after that strengthening period, which was Freehold and Point Pleasant. And Point Pleasant was our last new store to open. And that was almost 6 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're
15 years old.
Yeah.
Well, cheers to that. My
That's
God.
crazy. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, look, my knowledge of coffee is from Curb Your Enthusiasm when he opens the Spite store. So I know it's all about the beans.
It's the beans, like my old man used to say. All about the beans.
So how did you find those beans? And then you have all these different areas. You have Honduras, Guatemala, Ethiopia.
Yeah.
What was it like to source that, and how did you educate yourselves in that aspect of it? Because you do have amazing coffee, and I'm sure it all starts with making sure you're getting the proper beans.
Yeah, it's not wrong. The Caribbean, it's right. It has to start with a really good, solid base product, and we have a great importer who knows what we want and puts the right things in front of us, and it has throughout the years. That said, we needed to learn more. We couldn't just say, our importer's always going to put something great in front of us, and we were willing to pay a little bit more because it was just better. So we started traveling. I don't remember the very first year we traveled, but our first trip was to Costa Rica. We did Costa Rica, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras,
all write-offs, which is amazing.
Colombia. I mean, we've been all over. And the team just went to Peru last year. So
you touched down in Costa Rica, and then what's the plan there to find some beans?
So you get to Costa Rica, and the importer came with us, and they were with the exporter, and they have a relationship. And then they bring us around to the farms, and they take you to the farms to show you truly like the families that are harvesting this product that you're drinking. And then you're on the farm and you're like, what's that? And they're like, oh, well, that's a banana tree. You're like, they like it close enough because it provides shade. And this particular batch over here is shade grown, but over here, we have strawberries over here. And you could tell when you taste the coffees, the soil has fruit in it, so we were starting to connect all of the dots. And then you'd go to a farm that, says it's organic, and you'd look over and you're like, well, but you're burning garbage right there. They're like, oh, no, it's organic. And you're like, but there's garbage being burnt right there. Like that's plastic. And some countries, they just didn't get it, and they would get the stamp of organic. And so we learned so many things about, the supply chain, about, possible corruption, about the importance of going to those farms and seeing who you're buying from and making sure that they, get it and you get it and you're on the same page. You have the same expectations about the product that's going to come.
You think there's corruption to the point where you think you're getting beans from some farm and they're sourcing it from somewhere else?
I can't give you facts over here, but we've been on some farms that are, near the border. And then they're like, well, Honduras is right there. So, was the Costa beans going into Honduras and the Honduras beans coming in, it's a commodity. So everybody wants it, trades it. It's money to the people who live there. So you really want to make sure you have solid relationships on the ground in these countries in order to know what you're getting. That's the bottom line. So we did that. We were able to do that, and we still do that. Yeah.
What was the quality of the beans like in that first store? Not as good as it is now.
No, it was still pretty good, even without the relationships, because we had the importer and he knew what we wanted. We actually came out of the gates with like incredible coffees, because what we could do in the early days, I was telling you about Starbucks earlier, right? It's hard to scale when you have one coffee that you want. Right. So we would get some amazing coffee from Ethiopia, let's say. And I remember this one, it was called Guji 3, and it tasted like blueberries. You taste a black coffee and you're like, what is this fruit? And it's like a fruit bomb of coffee. But we could only get one bag. And back then, one bag on our menu would last a while. Right. Now we would need a few hundred of that bag to consistently say, here's the Guji 3 from Ethiopia, everybody. So what we've done now over the years is now we've created a roaster's pick, so we can go and get unique different coffees that are, sort of wild and crazy and stand out. Not everybody loves them, but it gives you something new and fresh and different to try. And then we have our menu items, which are still amazing, our standard menu, but you know what to expect. Right. So, the consumer wants to know what to expect for the most part. And then some people are like, give me the new one,
Now, Brian, 3 to 4, is it all the same blend for you?
In terms of what I order?
Yeah. Is it always?
I always try to roaster's pick, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So and then after I've had it a couple times, I go back to I feel like early in the morning, I want something lighter. So I usually go Costa, something like that in the morning. And then if I'm sitting down this might sound ridiculous, but if I'm sitting down to do work, then I can have something that's bolder. So then I'll have Bali.
No, I understand
That's like my sitting, sipping type thing. But yeah, I rotate through the same 3 or 4.
I'm a Guatemala guy.
Yeah.
Now, do you touch the stuff, or you're so over coffee at this point?
I love coffee.
How many cups a day?
So
3 to 4 is problematic. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe.
I would say I pour about 3. I don't finish them, right? So I'll pour it in the morning. I'll sip. I drive the kids to school with it. There might be a little left. It gets cold. I don't want it. I'll pour a second one. I usually will maybe finish that one. And then the third, to be honest, I love taking just a plain seltzer and putting cold brew in it. Just a little bit of cold brew. And basically it's like the Manhattan Special, that old coffee soda, but with no sugar. That's like my favorite third cup. I know. It's not everybody,
And you do it as soon as you wake up, or is there a sweet spot where you hit that first cup of coffee?
Right now I've been into celery juice in the morning when I wake up. So it kind of thrown me off this year, but I'll have the celery juice, wait 15 minutes and then have the sometimes I'll brew the coffee right when I have the celery, because I'm like, I don't want the celery juice, I want the coffee, but I'm like, finish it, and then I'm like straight into my coffee. But it doesn't make me feel good, so I don't know.
Brian, what's your consumption? Let me hear it.
First thing
as soon as you open your eyes.
Yeah, I have it set to an auto drip. It goes off at 4:30.
His eyes are open because of the aroma.
Yeah, so I have one for the road. I usually take an early morning client 5:30, 6:30, and then I'll stop. If I'm in Cold Snake, I'll stop at Cold Snake on the way home. If I'm in Rumson, I'll hit Red Bank on my way home. That's the second. And then usually, when my wife gets off of work, depending on where she's coming from, where I'm going, I'll be like, hey, you stopping? Or so it's just it's an accepted thing. So that's my rotation.
It definitely keeps you going. I mean, I have a coffee first thing when I wake up at 7, and then 10 o'clock I have my Rook waiting here.
I do feel like I should comment only because I know of how his home set up. Because if I had that, it would be 17
all day long.
Yeah, it's like a turbo Keurig. It's like the actual setup of grind everything done.
Yeah, I have the a grinder that weighs out, so I just hit the exact weight. And then I have a pour over similar to the ones in the store. So you just put it in, and then I have a hot water. And the hot water comes out.
She's got a little barista that's downstairs.
Yeah, my daughter, to be honest, if she wakes up early, I'm like, please give me. She makes a great cup of coffee. My 11-year-old, so she's like my number one to make me a cup, but she's not always up before me.
So you were 6 months in, and you're like, this was the best decision I ever made in my life, or when did the trepidation of having this company and leaving that job fade away for you?
Well, people talk about nervousness and excitement is kind of the same play, like the same, they're like right next to each other, right? Like they're right there. I remember at the beginning being like nervous and excited because this was new and I felt like we have something here. But nervous because I had now I have, a family happening, and I had bills, and, we left a 6-figure job. The first year we paid ourselves $18,000 each. And the second year we paid ourselves $27,000 each. I'll never forget. The third year it was like 40. It took years because we kept pushing the money back into the business to grow because we wanted it to be ours. So, it took a long time to get up there. So, but when you see it and feel it and believe it, yeah, you're pushing all the chips back in. You know it.
Right.
And I'll never forget, like, sitting in bed at night, like thinking, what am I doing? This is crazy. Like crying, like, what am I doing? And then I remember being on Ocean Avenue at 5 a.m. like, holy shit, we're doing it. I'll never forget driving on Ocean Avenue and like, I can't believe it. Like I got the chills. It was just, the moments would just hit you. Like we're doing this. And I'm at 5 a.m. going to my little store, excited. That was all within, those both feelings were within the first 6 months or so.
And then at what point were able to remove yourself from the stores, and now it's just top level thinking of the vision?
I will say this, it's very, very difficult for me to remove myself from anything that I'm working on. So I give Sean the credit for this one. He physically removed me from the store right before we opened our second location. I remember we had a line out the door, and in Little Oakhurst, there's another building in front. So there's like a fire lane, and the line was like wrapped into the fire lane along the other building. And we had 5 employees working, plus the 2 of us. And the place is so small, like you couldn't move. You're hitting each other the whole time. And he was like, you want to go to lunch? And I was like, what are you talking about? What are you crazy? And he's like, let's go to Brennan's, me and you. And I'm like, right now, look at this line, It's like 11. And he's like, no, you're coming to lunch with me. And he grabbed my arm and he's like, let's go. And I'm like, and he's like, they're going to be okay. They have to be, And of course, they were okay.
So that was a big moment.
That was a big moment. I'll never forget that moment. And he said, we're about to open a second location. Like, we have to let them do their thing.
If you're an entrepreneur, you're a type A person. So letting go of the wheel is tough.
Yeah.
But that luncheon taught you.
It taught me to trust, right? Like the people we hired were great people, and they had learned from us. And I came from training, right? Elementary ed, and then learned sales training, and I had trained them all, So now I had to just trust that they were going to use everything I told them and taught them, and coached them on, and do what I would do, right? So it's like, or do it better. That is also something I learned along the way, is like everything that I set up and the way that I do it, I think is great. But all of a sudden you look over and you're like, wow, I didn't think of that. And they're doing it so well. Keep going. Like, I don't know everything, and I always say that, like, I don't have any like magic superpowers that are any different than anyone else around us.
Right.
I focus, I work really hard. I research, I want to make people happy. But if I surround myself with other people that are in that same mindset, then they're going to do the same, in their way. So
every entrepreneur usually goes to that one point that almost breaks them. Did you experience that, or was it just smooth sailing? Everyone's addicted. Keep it coming.
We've definitely had, I could write a book. I sometimes say there's been many moments, and I don't know if I've gotten to the point of they're going to break me, but
Was there a moment Rook almost ceased to go on?
Well, that would have been COVID. That would have been COVID, right? Like and Sean had the foresight, my quant had the foresight. It was January and we were in Costa Rica, the two of us, and he wrote home to our, director of finance and he said, how much do we have in reserves to, like, how long could we sustain if all shops had to close right now? She was like, what are you talking about? Like, he was watching the international news.
Yeah.
This is January 23rd. And we're in Costa Rica. And she did, an analysis, and it was 3 months or something like that. It was decent, maybe more, actually. But he had that foresight. Then, of course, come March, the pressures to close. I can't believe you're open. I can't believe that stuff really is the online world, when they think you're supposed to be doing something and they have opinions of what you should be doing as a business, that's really hard. That's really hard. That like almost mentally broke me a few times, like where you're like, you're questioning my character on what to do, and I have all these employees. Am I going to fire them?
Right.
Am I going to
People that don't
risk
understand that.
by taking a stake about some political topic and then risk our company and our jobs and our, we try
everything you built for a decade.
Yeah. And that's a really hard thing to struggle with, because I'm a person and I have personal opinions and thoughts and things I stand for, but that's a business and I can't put all my personal things onto it. Sean and I have never talked about politics. Crazy, right? Business partner. Never.
There's other stuff to talk about.
I know. But I mean, the fact that, people would want you to like put a stake on something and then risk, I look at it as risking the livelihoods of a couple hundred people.
Right.
But with COVID, that started to happen. Are you going to close? And we did close, and it was the right thing to do on March 21st. And then we started to reopen some of the stores in May, but that was the scariest time for sure.
You had 3 months in reserves that you could...
Somewhere, yeah. Yeah, it was something like
Luckily,
that.
it opened back up.
Thank God. But we also had to lay off or let go of our staff. We kept the corporate team, and then our now president, he was the district manager at the time. We had decided to let go of all the store managers with the rest of the store teams, and he begged and was like, you cannot let them go. Like it will be impossible for me to rebuild.
Right.
If you let go of those store managers, I will find them work and I will make it valuable. And 3 days later, we had an online ordering system up that you could order in advance, pay, and come and pick up a bottle or a bag at our roasting facility. And all of the store managers ran that. Like they were you'd pop your trunk, they would put it in. We had so many milks at one point. We were like, and you get a free milk, we had, because we weren't using them for the stores. I mean, it was a time, but we kept them all on. And then what we did was, unknowingly, we created an even stronger culture, because those store managers, at the time it was 12, had never spent time together, right? They're like in their different silos. They had never spent time in our production facility. So now they're brewing cold brew. Some of them learned how to roast. They're packaging, they're bottling. And then at the end of the day, we always had cane on tap. They would have a beer together. And no one could have a beer together, but we had this huge facility. So they would sit 6 feet apart, take their masks down, and got to have a beer together after work. And it created, when that ended, we had a lot of tears, because it was like something that they would have never experienced. Yeah.
And then also, I mean, look, a big challenge when you have that many locations, right? It's 11 plus the roastery.
Yeah.
So that consistency, right? Do you think it's only strengthened like the Rook way?
Yeah. That's one of the reasons maybe we haven't grown, is because into more stores is like, it has to be consistent and it has to be good product. And the current facility we have has constraints. And if we want to scale it, even right now, we really don't advertise online, our e-commerce site too much, because we have to have ice packs. We keep it in the cold chain because it tastes better in the cold chain. And we have freezers everywhere with ice packs. If we turn the dial on advertising and we get an influx of orders. We're like, oh, we're out of ice packs. I mean, it's wild. So we're working on a new facility so that we can grow and listen, the more efficient you get, the more consistent things can be and things like that. So
You're at 11 locations. I feel you probably could have, nationally, you could have 100 and people are just going to get addicted to this stuff. What is stopping you from making that push? Is it the consistency of the beans, just like that same problem that Starbucks had to make sure that they had that consistency?
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm ready to go, but I know I have a business partner who's very, very smart, and he is the one who sort of has always reeled me back and been like, hey, the ship. I explained the ship tipping.
Right.
When we decided to get strong, we wanted to grow our team at the same time too. So there's about 15 people on our corporate team, and we wanted to give them the ability to strengthen their skills and, grow their careers within. Our district manager, I was just telling you about, is now the president of the company. We have somebody who started in marketing 8 years ago, and now he's a senior director of marketing. We have 3 MBAs in our finance team, business operations manager and director of finance. So we were able to keep growing their careers for them, and all the while sort of start to step away from the day-to-day, the two of us. So that we wanted to see if that was something that we could accomplish. And now I can say, yes, we were able to accomplish stepping away from the day-to-day and allowing these people to grow their careers. The facility itself is at constraints. So we are, knock on wood, in an LOI for a new facility that will give us all the bells and whistles we need in order to start to expand a little more.
Into other states or just more?
I think we'll start with the demand right here and around here is very big. Our Point Pleasant store and our Wall Township store are our top 2 stores, and they're both south. Hint, so maybe we hit something in the south to start. But I think that we could come out of the gates with a few more stores, see how they do, and then it really depends what you want to do with a company, right? Like if we were like, we want to sell this company, then we'd have to start jumping markets and prove that it's a concept that could work all over. We love the company. It does really well. It's just the 2 of us right now that own it. We're able to pay our staff very well. And life is kind of nice and good. I'm not complacent by any means, but we do have the ability to sort of enjoy the fruits of our labor. So, how many is too many, and how much is more than you need, right?
Right.
So as long as I can keep growing my staff and giving them opportunity, I'm not the type that's like, I need, I love my life. I feel very fortunate. I get to do other things with my family and help friends with their businesses. So I wouldn't want to change any of that at the expense of, I need 30. And it's like, for what,
You probably have a very nice life balance now.
I do right now.
After, grinding for the last decade and change.
Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome that you're going to build this new facility and there's going to be more Rooks. I mean, if you want to come to Atlantic Highlands, we sure could
keep
use
an
it.
eye on it.
Otherwise, I'll keep sending Joey a cold snack. But no, look, I know that obviously giving back is a part of Rook. The Rook Run is a big staple here. It's a 5K to help the Valerie Fund. I know Brian trains a bunch of people that do the Rook Run. Where did that come from? Why the Valerie Fund? And what did that, philanthropic work do for the brand? Yeah,
so we did it. We haven't done it in a few years, but we did it for 4 years for the Valerie Fund, and we raised almost $1 million.
Wow.
Which was unbelievable. And that organization was just like amazing. When we stopped, it was, we were starting to get into COVID times, and it was a lot on our business, right? So we were talking about the infrastructure of our business. We teamed up with them and put the run on, but it was a lot of work.
Right.
So we're like, okay, man, like we put in a lot of work. We didn't grow these things on our goal lists these year, but we gave back almost $1 million. Like that was the best part of it. It was amazing. The Valerie Fund, we wanted to keep it in New Jersey, our money, as we were a Jersey company, and they were starting to go into Pennsylvania and up north, and we really wanted it in Monmouth County, but it got outside of their needs for what we wanted and our goals. And then we kept doing, we called it Rook Gives. We kept doing like a day of giving. now we're bringing back, we're joining forces with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Northern Jersey. I say Northern Jersey, I want to say it right. And Jersey Shore, Jersey Coast. And we're doing, for November, a big initiative with them with our Blends Giving. So we put out a coffee every year called Blends Giving. And it's like, it sells out. And so we're going to give all of our proceeds to them for this year. So that'll be we're kind of bringing it back. But
Amazing.
the run, I want the run to come back.
Yeah?
It was like the best.
I know you used to do the run.
Love the run. One of our members won a car.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right.
You can win cars?
She was cursing on stage. Well, because I had her on the phone. She left.
That's right. That's
And I had to call her. I was like, you want a car.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The run was amazing.
It was Subaru, right? That was with it?
amazing. Yeah.
So that ended during COVID times.
right before, yeah.
Right before.
And it ended more so because we needed to strengthen the ship a little bit at that point in time.
Yeah.
And it was pulling too many resources. But now we're feeling pretty strong. So we're like, all right, what are the things that we can start to do for Give Back that would have some impact? So we're starting with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it is our 15th year, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like a
That's amazing.
big year.
So listen, you've created generational wealth for your family. You have this amazing company. What did you learn along the way that you would pass on to somebody else that has that entrepreneurial spirit? Like, how do you get to this level of success and scale as fast as you did? And stay sane throughout the process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too cliche, but you have to really surround yourself with like good people. Like you have to. And the naysayers or the people who question things, sometimes they put things in your head that create stories. Then you build these stories, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. Whereas if you surround yourself with people, anybody you can get your hands on that will get you pumped up and get you excited and give you positive information, feedback, education, knowledge. The stories you create in your head are a lot different.
Right.
And, our mental state is really kind of what drives us. So that is one thing I would recommend is truly find people, even outside of your circle. I remember, Brian, we met in the back of Colt's Neck.
Yep.
Right?
Holly gave me the most polite no I've ever received.
Oh yeah, he wanted to put some flyers
I
up.
remember.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
because we just opened, like, this was my first business. So I was like, oh, we had all these flyers and stuff. I was like, oh, like, there's the owner of Rook. Like, let me go introduce myself. And I was like, hey, like, I was all excited. You think we can, like, hang these up? And she was like, ooh. She was like, no, but I remember the answer. She was like, listen, I would love to, but, if we do that, then we're going to have hundreds of them in there. And it's not what we're going for. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I wasn't offended or anything. Obviously we're here. Like I wasn't, but I just remember it being like, I always talk about it being the most polite. No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, if I'm only going to look at people that own gyms, I'm only going to be as good as other gym owners.
Right.
I need to watch people that are doing, getting ideas from people that run great coffee shops or great film production, things like that. So if I'm going to learn or I'm going to try to improve what we do from a fitness standpoint, like I need information outside of that world.
Right. So who are your mentors? Is it conferences? What do you suggest people do? I know you go to VCon, right?
I've gone to VCon a couple of times.
What's that crazy
That
scene
was
like?
unique. I mean,
Is it worth going?
I wish I went this past summer, the third one, but I was a little busy. I thought it was worth going. And because it was new, the first 2 years I went, it wasn't like outrageous with like people, but then I'm seeing like Snoop was there and Deepak Chopra and Drew Barrymore and, Martha. Like I saw these crazy, and I'm like, I'm right up front. Like there's not that, it was because it was a new conference. I thought that was amazing. Believe it or not, I feel like I've never had a mentor that I was like, okay, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. It was like mentoring moments along the way, right? I've mentioned a few moments of just this hit me. I have a lot of memories, a lot of strong moments with people and aha moments that I've received along the way. I would say if I had to say like a mentor, it would be my business partner, Sean. Like he's probably been my biggest mentor, my quant. I'm going to start calling him my quant. He was able to provide me with so much knowledge about the parts and pieces I didn't know anything about. And now now I can move forward and I'm helping family, friends, and other businesses, not just with marketing, but, I can look at their financial statements and I can actually, decipher what's going on and help them. But, him being the yin to my yang, it was really, he would probably be my number one mentor.
I mean, that's amazing. So what are the dreams for Holly going forward? Is it something outside of Rook?
Well, I still, as much as I'm not in the day to day, I still kind of muscle in like, you guys, what are you doing? Need me? What's going on? What's this about? I'm there for them, of course. But no, now I've started to sort of figure out, okay, what do I want to do with my time? I've never been one to say, I'm just going to sit back and, do not. I have to do something, and it has to be project or work related that I can, use my brain for. So I've been helping, family and friends with their businesses with some, life hurdles that some friends are going through, and doing coaching and consulting for some businesses. So that's been actually a lot of fun. I haven't formalized it. Sometimes I take on more than I can, I probably have 15, 20 texts right now. I'm like, just text me with a question. Just text me, so, but I love it. I love being able to give and help and guide. And even if I can be that one that gives them those moments that I say that I got from different people along the way, that feels like the best give back that I can do. Listen, doing a Rook run is unbelievable, but it is just a check when you can physically give to people around you things that will help them be more successful or better or get through a tough time in life. That to me is the ultimate give back.
That's amazing. You're super inspiring.
Oh,
like we try to celebrate rebels in business and people that live life on their own terms. And the fact that you took this leap and you built this brand and all the success you've had and how you've given back, like you are exactly the type of person that we love to have on this show. I think the takeaway is at 29, guys, you quit, you go to Thailand, you figure it out. You know what I mean?
Do it.
No, but look, I mean, kudos to you for having that bravery and gumption to do that, making good money, getting off the salary drip to try to find something that fulfilled you more. And
well, sometimes I feel like not taking the risk is riskier than taking what you think is the risk.
That's advice to live by.
Yeah.
Brian, what has Holly taught you over the years? Everything?
A lot. I mean, I listen to what people say and then I watch what they do and I try to make sure that they match up. But when we talk about attention to detail, if you get a Rook coffee, the line on the cup matches where the mouthpiece is, that's not by accident, right? Or if the milk is frothed on the top, I can work at Rook if you ever need someone to fill in.
You're in. Let's go.
They shake it first so that it has that different taste when you first get it. So it's it's one thing to meet people because you meet a lot of people and attention to detail, and it's but then there's stuff's everywhere, right? Yeah. So I like kind of watching from afar and seeing what matches up, and then just from a branding perspective, because I think, and that was going to be a question that I was going to kind of throw in is the difference between building a brand, right, which you've done, and now in a product-based business, how do you remain fresh, relevant? Because, for me in the gym business, there's probably going to be people that need to do something with health and fitness. So, but how do you, around a product like coffee, how do you keep being how do you keep Rook at the forefront? Because I think in Monmouth County, Rook's seen as being one of the leaders, not just in coffee, but just in business in general. So I'd be more curious, where your thoughts are at now, what that looks like. How do you think about that? So
I think about it as a lifestyle brand, right? You're a lifestyle brand. It's coffee, but there's a badge of honor wearing the shirt or holding the cup, wearing the hat or having it on your car. And it's really important to know your market. Again, I've never learned marketing, but everybody I speak to, I try to figure out what's going on in his shoes, what's going on in her shoes, and that's just the way my maybe it's I'm over empathetic, but I always want to think about the end consumer, that the person I'm either speaking to or serving a cup to. And when I think about it as a lifestyle thing, it is sort of keeping up with the times of what do people want and need in their current lifestyles, and how does coffee or Rook fit into that? And that is evolving, so we went from being a hot single origin coffee focused company to now we are recognized as a cold brew company to many.
Yeah.
Some people don't even know we have hot coffee, right? They come in, they want their cold. Right now we just put out the peanut butter mocha, but also sort of still staying true to Rook, right? Like it's peanut butter mocha, but there's no sugar in it if you don't want it. There's no whipped cream on top. Although I never say never. I don't know what the lifestyle changes to, but we are not trying to make you a milkshake. We're trying to make you a coffee, and it has a natural flavor in it. And then you could add what you want to it. You want to put cream, you want to put sugar, you want to put, a creamer when you get home, go for it. But it stays true, but it also is the lifestyle of what they want right now. Our market, they want some new flavors. They want some fun. They want some excitement, something new. So we're trying to keep up with that lifestyle aspect of what we do. And the same with the clothes. Like I wear black and gray and, beige, very neutral. And all of our merch was always black, white, gray. And my team really was like, we need some color.
The new merch is really good, by the way. Whatever just came out recently, the new merch is good. The new hats
coming out
looks good.
And they kind of had to break me because, and again, I don't know everything, and it doesn't. Rook does not have to be Holly, but they understood and understand the lifestyle of our customer, of our market, and they should. That's what we should do, right? We don't have to fold and do everything, but there's definitely things that we can do to make sure that they're happy at that time as the world and our culture and our community evolves.
Was that the pinch yourself moment when you saw people wearing merch or the
that
sticker
was
on the
crazy.
car? You're like, whoa.
Even still, I'll be even in New York City and I'm like, oh God, kids, there's a Rook sticker. They're like, we see it, Mom. I'm like, but it's a Rook sticker right here in New York. It's like, we'll see people out and I'm like, oh, go give that guy a free coffee. My daughter's like, I'm not giving him a free coffee. I have these little coupons. I'm like, but he's got the hat on. I still get super excited about it. If I see cars, I'll put the little free coffee in the windowsill, like in the window.
Great.
Just because it's still so fun to me. I love it.
Do the kids want to keep the legacy going, or they're like, the last thing I want to do is be a part of that?
I mean, they're still young. Sean has 2 stepsons, seemingly don't want to have much to do with it. My daughters never did. My daughters are 12 and 14 now. But now my 14-year-old, now that she's in high school, and like she walks into school and she's holding her Rook and her friends are holding Rook. She's like, so Mom, when are you gonna, like, can I get a job there? Like now she's starting to show some interest. So I'm like, wait, now it's cool. Now that you're at school and you see your friends carrying it. And a lot of them don't know that she's connected to it. So she tries to keep that under wraps. But it's, I'm like, then they'll start asking you to bring them to school. But we'll see. I don't know.
How many people have brought bags to be like, let's buy this out? It's gotta be.
A lot.
Like once a quarter, you're getting asked.
Yeah, a lot.
Is there a number? Is there a number that you would sell? Or it's your baby? I
mean, I'm still human. Like, yeah, I think that at some point there's, the reality to it. Back in the day, it used to be like, you're a sellout, you sold. And now it's like, congratulations, you sold your business. Like, right? Like the times have changed. So I think that for us, we've built something that's so strong. I like to say that it kind of lives on whether Sean and I are around or not at this point. Like it still has its thing. It's a living, breathing thing, Rook. So I think that will continue on no matter what. But there's no like sign of wanting to sell for either of us.
Your quant's got a number.
He's got, of course he does. And he'll just say, here's our number. And I'll be like, okay. But I wouldn't want that to happen anytime soon, quite frankly.
Well, listen, you're amazing.
Thank you.
Rook is amazing.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you coming on here. I mean, you are a true rebel in business, and I'm grateful that you blessed our set here today.
And this was delicious.
Yes, Brian, thank
Cheers.
you.
You got it.
Cheers.
Hey, I got one more question.
Uh-oh.
I feel like with
in the middle of the wrap out. In the middle of the wrap out.
That's not what I do for a living. That's what that's what they do. Like they'll fix it. They're professionals.
Yeah.
You got good ones though. Fire away.
Yeah, no, I do. I feel like
this is bonus time here.
Bonus
people.
time. Yeah, it could be like a separate segment. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm going to carve
Brian's
myself.
bonus segment.
So I feel like in your business, you probably get a lot of people that are like, hey, did you ever think about making a mint flavored tea? Like, what's the weirdest, hopefully they don't listen to the podcast, but what's like the weirdest thing that you can remember that someone pitched you like, oh, you should definitely make this?
They want to keep it in the coffee world. Like, so we'll get coffee cookies and coffee, breads or, people want the cookies shaped as rooks. Like, you're like, oh yeah, a cookie shaped with the rook. But I'm like, that's a promotion. That doesn't taste good. What have we gotten that's weird?
Crow flavored.
I mean, with coffee, people have wanted to make, and we can do any of these things. Soaps, and actually we have a candle that we're launching right now. We just launched a candle. But scrubs. Scrubs, like with for the soaps in the shower.
I thought like medical scrubs.
I thought medical scrubs.
Yeah.
A taste of scrubs.
I'd be confident if I was going in the surgery, the guy rolling with some rook scrubs on. I mean, this guy's
no salt scrubs or whatever, sugar scrubs, rubs for steak.
Well, that makes sense.
There's been a lot of like or recycling the grinds and making like not firewood, but that sort of Duraflame type of thing. Like those are the things that I can think
I want to
of.
team up with the block, a nice coffee rub on some steaks.
I know. Let's get Tommy doing it. He would.
He totally would.
He would. But yeah, we've had people make it for us, give it to us, and we've used it, something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want that pork roll, egg and cheese brew. You've caught my attention. Taylor ham though. I'm from
Taylor
North
ham.
Jersey, so.
All right, fine. It's a fight. No, there's a lot we can do for new flavors. Even if we wanted to make something ridiculous, like for fun, we could.
And who's the chemist that's coming up with that concoction?
We had the same head of production for years, about 9 years, and he's not with us anymore. So now, like a couple of different people on the team have sort of taken it as their mission, and they just came up with the peanut butter, and they're so proud of it. And it's awesome, the peanut butter.
What is it called? Peanut butter cold fashioned?
Yes.
I love it.
This is good.
This
is too good.
I'm glad you liked it. I was nervous. I was more nervous than being on the podcast.
He showed me he was practicing last night. The attention to detail.
I got a video or a photo.
I checked in with both of you.
No, but it's a team effort now with the coffees and the limited coffees and tasting the coffees, which again is great because we've gotten to grow our team to do these other. My president is one of our best tasters now, and he wasn't, even in food, let alone, being able to taste coffees and discern the notes and discern the discrepancies, etc. So we have a pretty strong team that's learned along the way.
It shows.
Thank you.
It really does.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you so much. Brian,
welcome.
Thank you for being our lovely
Appreciate
bartender here. This is delicious.
It's amazing.
And I'm excited to see what you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for
And
having
if I'm ever on the West Coast and I see a rook, I'm going to smile ear to ear.
You gotta take a picture and send it my way.
Definitely will. All right, Zucks. Send it to the internet, brother.